Well, folks, it's the AZ Wildcats podcast live from Studio K. Our friends at Circle K are the best, and we're going to be breaking down everything from Carter Bryant to Becky Burke. And also, I asked you, the people, for your takes on some things going on around in Arizona athletics. So stick around. In 30 seconds, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Live, okay. Just like I told you before, it is the AZ Wildcats podcast. How we doing, folks? Happy Monday. It is a happy Monday in my world, at least. I hope it is a happy Monday in yours as well, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Thomas. I am your host for today's show. Damon is still in Hawaii, still being an island boy, still doing his thing. And I welcome him back Wednesday. Miss you, Damon dog. This show is a lot better when it's just the two of us doing this. So excited to welcome Damon Dog back on Wednesday. But for today, it's just me. Tomorrow, I think we're going to have Justin Spears on the pod. Probably talking more football with Spears. Potentially some NBA draft stuff. So we will get there when we get there. Luke in the chat, good afternoon. My friend, I hope you were having a good day. I hope everyone in the chat is having a good day. Drop a comment where you were when Carter Bryant announced he was entering the NBA draft. Throwing his name in the hat, throwing his hat in the ring, whatever you want to call that. But yeah, it was a good weekend for me, folks. It was a very busy week last week, so I took this weekend off to relax. It was a good time. Spent it with, my dog and my girlfriend. We went out to a Phoenix Rising game. It was dollar beer night at the Phoenix Rising game on Saturday. I did go. Gerald Margarita did get in the game. Was happy to see that because, if you know me, I love tequila and I love a margarita. So I got to watch my guy Gerald Margarita on the field doing his thing. Michael says, Loop. Happy for the man. I'm also ecstatic for Tyler Loop. We're going to get into all of that here in a bit. My mom says good for me. Yeah, it was good for me. I needed that rest at home. It was a very restful weekend. Tonight, Chad, have you guys seen Sinners? Tonight, I'm supposed to go see Sinners with some friends, and I'm super excited. But none of that is neither here nor there, chat. We are talking Arizona Wildcats on this happy Monday. And the NFL draft was this past weekend. Shout out to our PHNX Cardinals crew for absolutely killing it. Bo Brock and Johnny Venerable, really the two best in the game on the Cardinals side of things, absolutely killing it with the coverage. And I am very excited to see how that beat continues to kill it, covering the 2025-2026 Arizona Cardinals, who look very good and very promising. Hopefully, we have more Arizona Wildcats in next year's draft, because in this year's draft, Arizona had 4 Wildcats selected, the most since 2008. I believe tied with Colorado and a bunch of other schools with 4 players selected, but 3 more than Arizona State. Gotcha there. But no, I kid, I joke. Tetairoa McMillan was the first pick off the board for the Arizona Wildcats at pick number 8. And it was wonderful to see that, because when you look at the draft narratives, we talked a lot about this on Friday's show. When you look at the draft narrative surrounding T-Mac, a lot of it was very unfair. A lot of it was not very based in reality, I will say. I think a lot of it was people overthinking, draft analysts giving too much time with idle hands to do their job. And I think that you start overthinking things when you get into that stage. And that's kind of what happened with T-Mac. And we saw the Carolina Panthers didn't care about none of that noise. The Carolina Panthers did not care about any of the rumors, the narratives going on surrounding T-Mac, because they selected him 8th overall. And you don't select a player 8th overall unless you are willing to tie your job to that player. GMs are, when you're in the top 10, when you're in the top 15 of any league's draft, I feel like your job is tied to an extent to the player that you select. This is not like a 30th overall player. This is not Mr. Irrelevant. This is someone that you are going to in part be developing your team around, and giving Bryce Young a piece as versatile and as talented as Tetairoa McMillan is only going to improve their chances of development there in Carolina. And if you want Bryce Young to reach his full potential, he needs more than an elderly Adam Thielen, respectfully, and a Xavier Legette, who's at this point, in my opinion, probably his ceiling is a number 2 in the NFL, right? And so I feel like you actually give Carolina a guy who could genuinely go out and be a number 1 option for them one day. I think that is a very encouraging sign when you look at where Tetairoa McMillan went, where he could have went. It is a great fit in many ways. And what I really did not discuss at all during last week's podcasts were some of the worries that you have with that T-Mac has now been selected to the Carolina Panthers. One of those concerns is, quite frankly, the owner, Dave Tepper. Like, we've seen the Tepper temper flare up at times during these poor Panther games. I'll say, some of their worst performances. I think we've seen the temper flare up from the owner at times, and you don't want that kind of energy around the locker room if that is still persisting. And additionally, the Carolina Panthers have never really been a franchise that can really stand on their own and say that they have a strong foundation of success and that this is what leads to success in the Carolina Panthers franchise. You had that Cam Newton run before that. I don't, off the top of my head, really remember a strong Carolina Panthers run. And forgive me if I'm aging myself in the reverse there, but I feel as though sending T-Mac to a team that doesn't have a lot of institutional success in the NFL, I feel like is not the most encouraging thing. Furthermore, Dave Canales is somewhat unproven as a head coach. I think he showed encouraging signs last season. I think being a quarterback whisperer to the likes of Baker Mayfield, helping him, I'll say maintain a career in the NFL and revitalize his current trajectory in the NFL is encouraging. But while, again, with some of the other options there, like a Matt LaFleur, like a D'Amico Ryan, who I think falls also in that unproven category, but I do think he's a little more proven than a guy like Dave Canales. But there are some worries. Additionally, Bryce Young. Is Bryce Young the guy? We're going to find out, but is Bryce Young the guy? I don't necessarily. You're right, Michael. Cards on their Super Bowl run went into Carolina and won. That is correct. You are correct on that. But as I was saying, yeah, Bryce Young. I'm not sure if Bryce Young is the guy. Jury is still out on that. He showed flashes of being a solid quarterback last year, but they were just that. They were flashes on a team that was not going anywhere. And so you do worry about the pieces around T-Mac. What's the ceiling of Xavier Legette? I like Adam Thielen's role. I don't think that I'm not too worried about Adam Thielen on the field, his production. I think it's encouraging to see T-Mac go to a team that has a veteran who's done it at the highest level, like Adam Thielen. I know he's not exactly, in his prime any longer, but I think that Adam Thielen is a guy that can bring a lot to T-Mac's game. I think that's a guy that was really solid for a very long time. And I think that that's something that does not worry me. Is the receiver room. You have a nice mix of old and young. Different personality types, I think, exposes T-Mac to thinking differently. I think all those things are good when you look at the receiver room. But again, Bryce Young, question marks, staff, question marks, front office, question marks. The defense, which is the fans that weren't excited. A lot of fans were excited about T-Mac going to their team, being the Carolina Panthers. But some Panthers fans were not as excited about this pick because while they love T-Mac as a player, they just don't necessarily know if T-Mac was the biggest need, was the biggest necessity at that point in the draft when the defense was as porous as it was last season for Carolina. I believe they had the 30th ranked defense last season. And when you look at a team, and this is what I've been saying all week leading up to the draft, when you look at some teams at the top of this draft that might not select T-Mac, it's not for lack of skill. It's not for lack of desire. It's for lack of need, right? Because there are sometimes there are more positional, or there are positions that have more weight to them if you don't have them filled out properly than others. And I think wide receiver is unfortunately for T-Mac. Well, I guess it didn't really matter in this case, but you know what I mean? It could have been unfortunate for T-Mac. The wide receiver for some of these teams is not as high on their list of priorities as others. I thought Carolina was going to be one of those teams. I did not see Carolina as a team that would go up in the top 10 and pick a receiver. I thought they would go defense. I really did. And so when they picked T-Mac, I think I tweeted in all caps, the Panthers, because one, the Panthers, and two, I just didn't expect them to go offense there in that spot. And so, yeah, you see T-Mac, first Arizona Wildcat off the board to the Panthers. Again, we kind of talked about it last week, but what were some of your reactions here in the chat? Let me know. Moving on to Big Jonah Savaiinaea. He goes to Damon's Miami Dolphins. Big Jonah is heading down to Miami. Welcome to Miami, Big Jonah. It should be a great fit. I mean, Jonah is a versatile lineman. Mike McDaniel, you know, the motion and the action and the speed that he likes to utilize. I think having athletes on the line like Jonah will go a long way for Miami. It was a great draft pick, in my opinion. Obviously, I am slightly biased here covering Arizona, but I think Jonah's going to fit right in. Got that Oos connection. Yeah, you got that Oos connection with Tua. I believe they went to the same high school, not at the same time. Someone in the chat, please fact check me on that. But I don't believe they went to St. Louis High School in the islands at the same time. But yeah, real quick here from the chat, Michael says a positive on T-Mac is that their division is always open. Saints suck. Tampa is okay. And ATL is meh as well. That is true. You could actually see an outsized impact from T-Mac in a division that is as close as the NFC South is, because you're right. The Saints are not great. They go and pick Tyler Shog in the first round. They skip over Shadur Sanders. And oh my God, chat, we are 12 minutes into the show. And I know this is an Arizona Wildcats podcast, but we're talking about the draft. How are we not talking about Shadur Sanders falling as far as he did and getting prank called? That's nasty work. I was texting with my grandpa about it yesterday, because it seems somewhat reliable that the source of the prank call might have been the 21-year-old son of an Atlanta Falcons coach, a staff member. And so that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, as an Arizona fan, I feel like I wasn't really feeling too bad for Shadur Sanders. Even after the prank call, guys get prank called every year. Nobody makes a stink of it. But when it's Shadur, all of a sudden it is, morally bankrupt. And what are we doing? And blah, blah, blah. That's, I think, the right or wrong of it's neither here nor there, but don't be selectively upset just because it was someone who has an expensive watch. You know what I mean? Anyway, Shadur falling as far as he did was crazy. For the Browns to pass on him as many times as they did, select Dillon Gabriel, and then at the tail end of this draft, still go ahead and select Shadur Sanders was unbelievable to me. I don't know if you guys saw it, but on the Cleveland Browns Instagram, just go scrolling through their Instagram. It's Shadur. And I totally understand that, because, you're trying to get your engagement, you're trying to get your clicks, and no one on that team is driving clicks as much as Shadur Sanders right now. So I get it. But if you're Dillon Gabriel looking at that, he wasn't even the most recent Dillon posted on their Instagram. There's some other Dillon that they drafted that they posted more recently than Dillon Gabriel. So if I'm Dillon Gabriel, I am sick to my tummy right now, watching this draft coverage and wondering why they selected me if you're just going to go do this anyway. And then if you saw the reaction from the Cleveland Browns draft room, the war room, it really did look like the owner called in and said, "Hey guys, you guys love anybody here? Or do you just like a bunch of guys?" And they said, "No, we like a couple guys. Pick Shadur." And that's kind of what it seemed like, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense as to why you would take Dillon Gabriel earlier. That feels like it was the coaching staff and the scouting room's call. And then the owner came over the top later and said, again, I'm just speculating, said, "Hey, that guy that I wanted, we should take him now." And they said, "Okay, owner, we will do whatever you got to do here in this draft." So yeah, chat. Luke here says, clearly no team had Sanders going in the first round, so kind of embarrassing for the league to paint him as this franchise QB. And yeah, it was interesting, I'll say, to think about the contradiction between what scouts were saying, what people in the interviews were saying, what, everyone that had been in the room with Shadur Sanders was saying about Shadur Sanders. And then for Mel Kiper to go up there and just scream his head off about how this is the biggest draft travesty and I can't believe that teams are passing on him. And some people saying that this is the league sending a message to the Sanders family. And it just didn't feel that way. Like, to me, it felt like this was a player who was overhyped. And again, I think Shadur is a good player. I don't think Shadur is like an all-time great player. I don't think Shadur is like, a franchise shifting foundational piece of a team. He's good. He deserves to be in the NFL, right? That's my opinion. And I think what really happened here is you have a player who's overrated, overhyped, and they act, I'll just say extremely self-confident, and the mileage may vary for his attitude. I think people's reception to it, mileage may vary. You might go all the way with that attitude and you might think that is the way to be. You might be totally repulsed by that attitude and think that he is the most arrogant, entitled guy of all time. I kind of fall closer to the latter, but not all the way over there. I think I'm closer to the middle on it because that's just not like we would never act that way in a job interview. You know what I mean? Like, if you are going into a job interview expecting to make a good impression, you can't carry yourself the way that Shadur Sanders was carrying himself throughout the draft process and expect for that to rub positively on you. I think that this was a situation where scouts weren't really in love with him, it feels like, based on the evaluations that are based on them passing so many times on him. So it feels like scouts are a little low on him, and it also feels as though he acted in a way that made him a little less desirable to teams and adding him into their locker room than others. And I feel like that is really what happened here. I don't really feel like it was the NFL being like, we got to send a message to the Sanders family. They've gotten out of control. It just doesn't feel that way. I feel like if Shadur acted like Shiloh, I feel like he probably goes in the first round or the second round, right? Because Shiloh throughout this whole draft process, I think gained a lot of fans for his big brother mentality towards Shadur. And I'm not going to get, I've already talked too much about this, but you guys get my point. I think it was more of an attitude problem than a skill problem. I think his skills were slightly overrated, maybe just overrated, but I really don't think that it was anything more than him just not making himself agreeable throughout the draft process. There's all these clips going around, going viral, where he's just not being a great teammate. Now, I'm sure he is a good teammate in the locker room. I'm sure that he's not some sort of locker room barnacle, I'll say. But I think, like, when you have clips of, like, that famous clip of him asking, well, how many times did Raiola get touched? And in relation to his offensive line not protecting him properly. When you have clips of him, bullying the what was it, the camera guy, the ball boy for Colorado State or whatever team it was, probably almost instigating a fight. And you have all these clips of the one after Colorado State where he's talking to Nicolosi, and it's just, there are so many clips of Shadur not being an agreeable person that make me feel like maybe he's just not the most likable guy. And again, I don't know him personally, so I'm not trying to paint him in any sort of awful light. I think we all have times where we don't look or say exactly how we feel or what we mean in moments where maybe we should. But yeah, and we've all definitely carried ourselves in some ways that maybe we regret. But I feel like Shadur, I feel like with Shadur Sanders, there's no one else to blame for his draft stock falling than Shadur Sanders. No, I don't know, chat. Where do you guys fall on this? Let me know. We have some quick chats to get here in here. Michael says, seeing Croskey-Merritt get drafted makes me think how he would have changed this team last year. Wiley was awesome and went undrafted last year. I agree with you. I know my guy Damon agrees with you for sure. He has been banging this drum all off season that if Croskey-Merritt was allowed to play, if Croskey-Merritt had eligibility for this most recent season, Arizona, he's confident. I believe we'll have to ask him. Don't quote me on this, but I believe Damon is confident that they would have made a bowl game if he was able to return to the team last season. Luke, Appreciate you for joining us. Says JCM to my Washington Commanders. Oh, you're a Commanders fan. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders. JCM to my Washington Commanders was such a steal in this year's draft. Shout out to my buddy Jacob Spalding, who is also a Washington Commanders fan. So I actually sympathize. I am a Commanders sympathizer. I've been following the Commanders quite closely the last couple of years. Pretty much since I got into college and met my buddy Jacob. So I mess with the Commanders, Luke. I'm with you on that. Very happy to see him going up to Washington, the nation's capital. Michael says, hope Gabriel can ball out though. Feel everything is set up for him to fail. Dude is such a stud though. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier about the owner versus the coaches making these decisions. Cause it does feel like Gabriel is being shortchanged in all of this. But at the same time, it feels like if he is able, because it is going to be a quarterback room that probably we're going to make a big deal. Like people in the media are probably going to make a big deal about the quarterback battle between Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel and whoever the hell else is in that quarterback room. I feel as though Dylan Gabriel will be given a chance to prove himself and earn that role. It's not as though there is a guaranteed day one starter right now for Cleveland. They barely even want Deshaun Watson on the roster, nonetheless in the city. So, I feel as though Dylan Gabriel could set himself up for success, even though the franchise kind of screwed him over a little bit by taking him in the first place if they knew they were going to go take Shadur on the back end of the draft. Regardless, Luke says, and that Bryce Young trade for my Bears is finally complete. We got a lot of value. Melty face emoji. But yeah, chat, we are going to be right back talking more about the NFL draft. I have Becky Burke to talk about. I have Carter Bryant to discuss. And I asked you, the people, I asked you all in the chat for survey answers, and you guys gave me some survey answers. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit on the AZ Wildcats podcast. We will be right back after this quick break. So don't you move a muscle and leave a like, please. Well, chat, I want to talk about our friends over at Branded Bills. Branded Bills is the best way to elevate your brand. And if you want to elevate your brand with Branded Bills, make sure to do that immediately. You see them behind me right here. We got the Arizona one, the PHNX pennant. We got the state flag in the state outline. They got beautiful hats. They got all types of selection. They have new Arizona Wildcats hats. They dropped on the website recently, chat. I didn't even know about them. Didn't even get me hip to them. I went down to Tucson recently and also saw at the Arizona campus store the most beautiful Branded Bills setup of all time. All types of exclusive hats. Check out Branded Bills. No better way to elevate your brand than with Branded Bills, a company that started right here in Mesa, Arizona, right here in the state of Arizona. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd. Branded Bills is the way to do it. Whether you need truckers, fit-ids, beanies, tees, Branded Bills has it all for you. Head to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order with Branded Bills. And also, folks, no better place than Circle K. If you need drinks, gas, snacks, energy drinks, you need you need hot foods, Circle K is the way to go. I love stopping by Circle K as much as I can possibly get the chance to. I am an Inner Circle member. I get that 5 cents off per gallon. That do something for you, because if you join the Inner Circle today, you can get 25 cents off on your first 5 fill-ups, 3 cents every day after that, and then 5 cents when you finally graduate into that 5 cents per gallon. Inner Circle, like the inner circle. That's what I'm in at Circle K. That's what Damon's in. And that's what you should be in as well. So check out our friends over at Circle K. Inner Circle Fuel Days, one just passed on April 24th, where you can get 40 cents off per gallon from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. You got to take advantage of that. And if you weren't in the Inner Circle on April 24th, you couldn't take advantage of that. So make sure to gear up for May 6th as the Circle K big giveaway. Customers can enter to receive big prizes, cash, and more. Visit circlek.com/big giveaway for more details. Join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions do apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for more details. And chat, we are back. We have returned from our one ad break of today's show. We have I was gonna do an exact time, but I'm really bad with math. We have the rest of the show, commercial free show for the rest of you guys here as we finish out the AZ Wildcats podcast. Luke says left hand up, hashtag raise hail. Luke says they've got PHNX Mercury hats now. Plug for Erica. Damn, Luke, breaking news to me. I feel like every day at this point. This is just stuff that I should know, did not know. Shout out to you, Luke, for bringing that information to your boy today. And moving on here, chat, we talked about T-Mac. We talked about Big Jonah. And dare I say, the person I'm most excited to talk about, and I'm shocked, maybe I'm wrong, maybe someone in the chat did mention it, I'm forgetting. Oh, Michael did mention it at the very top of the show. But Tyler Loop is a Baltimore Raven, and I think that he is looking to be the Justin Tucker replacement, as Justin Tucker is obviously embattled in some scandals right now related to his personal conduct that we will not get into on this show because that is really not the content that I am trying to cover. But you get my point here, and I think that Tyler Loop is set up really perfectly to step into a job that, if he really takes the reins of it, could be his for a very long time. And I think when you look at a team like Baltimore, they truly appreciate, and this is kind of what I've been getting at with this year's Arizona team, they truly appreciate having a kicker that they don't have to ever worry about when he goes out there to kick. I think there are a lot of teams that over the course of Justin Tucker's career have gone up against Justin Tucker and said, damn it, like that would be the perfect piece to have, like an elite kicker. And there are some teams with quarterbacks. You look at the Packers. When's the last time the Packers had a bad quarterback? Tell me. You're going back to when things are in black and white and there was still a milkman. You know what I mean? Like, there are some franchises at certain positions that via luck, via fortune, via intentional preparation, they don't let certain positions fall to the wayside. And I feel as though, oh yeah, damn, Luke, the Bears really are one of those teams that they know what it's like to not have a kicker. But anyway, I feel as though yes, DeShone Kizer, you're right. I feel as though the kicker position in Baltimore, because of Justin Tucker, has become one of those. And I think the Tyler Loop selection here really proves that. I think when you look at selecting Tyler Loop in the 6th round, there were some Baltimore Ravens fans looking at his, field goal percentage and like the exact percentage of kicks he made in college. And I feel like that's shortchanging who Tyler Loop is and what they've really gotten in their kicker in Baltimore, because this is a guy who can kick it from 70. Like, he can kick it from anywhere. And so if you use him properly, I think you are looking at a guy that truly can be a stable kicker in the NFL, can be a consistent kicker in the NFL. And I think Loop's got the proper mentality for that. I think he's a business first guy, just like T-Mac. He just wants to be the best kicker possible. And I think that Baltimore got a really, really solid pickup here. I don't necessarily, although I do sympathize with some of the Ravens fans that, just look at his raw numbers and say, like, I can't believe that this is the player we picked up, because they haven't watched Tyler Loop. Like, you at home, maybe you are the diehard that we all think that you are. And if you're not a PHNX diehard, you should become a PHNX diehard. There's all types of benefits, but that's neither here nor there. First link in the description. Anyway, many people are not paying attention to kickers at the college level, right? So when your team drafts a kicker at any point in the draft, you're probably like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So I totally understand where some Ravens fans' apprehension is with this pick, but I think once they see Tyler Loop in action, they're going to fall in love with Tyler Loop's game the same way Arizona fans did. Luke says, Tyler Loop is going to break Justin Tucker's 66-yard field goal record. Watched him hit those in warmups at Essex. Sorry, excuse me, chat. But yeah, no, totally true. I think that, like I said, Tyler Loop is a guy that can hit from 70, like legit can hit from 70, which is unbelievable to even say. And I think that he is a guy that could give Tucker a run for his money with the yardage record there for the field goals. And yeah, he definitely is a guy that does some crazy stuff in warmups in terms of distance and makes and all that stuff. So hopefully Erica says it's a Luke-a-thon in the chat. It is. We have Luke Zeman. Is it Zeman or Zeman? Or is it some other pronunciation? Anyway, and we also have Luke Ornelius. Wait. Ornelis. I don't know how to pronounce names, guys. I don't pronounce names for a living, even though I kind of do. But if I butchered it, let me know in the chat. But it is a Luke-a-thon today here, folks, as we continue our draft coverage, talking about Jacory Croskey-Merritt, who we kind of discussed earlier in passing, I feel like a little bit, as someone who really could have changed Arizona's season last year from a pure results perspective. This is a guy who was, for whatever reason, not allowed that extra year of eligibility as maybe he thought he had in the bag, but he did not have in the bag. And he was taken from the Arizona roster after just one 106-yard touchdown game with a 13 carries performance in the opener against New Mexico. And fans were excited. And then all of a sudden he was ripped from your roster and you really couldn't say much about it. So yeah, when you look at a guy like JCM, what he could have done for Arizona football's ceiling last season, we'll never know. Right. We'll never know if Arizona maybe just looks the exact same with JCM last year. But it's unlikely that is the case. It feels as though with JCM on the roster, Arizona would have been able to definitely win a couple more games last season. He goes in the 7th round. We want 245th overall pick to the Washington Commanders. I also saw, maybe it was Damon, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but I saw a really funny tweet out there in the Twitter sphere, the X sphere, the artist formerly known as Twitter, the other day about how Jacory Croskey-Merritt wanted to be a Wildcat so bad that he apparently, allegedly, the Twitter joke goes, he lied to be an Arizona Wildcat. And that is how you know someone is a real Wildcat. But I kid, and we move on to Quali Conley. So we had 4 Arizona Wildcats selected in the NFL draft, but Quali Conley becomes one of the first Arizona Wildcats from, that massive class to become an undrafted free agent. Bill Norton also went that route, I believe. I saw on Spears' Twitter last night. So Quali Conley signs with the Bengals, going to join Joe Burrow over there in Cincinnati as an undrafted free agent. Quali Conley, someone that Arizona fans appreciate, someone that ESPN doesn't know how to, spell nor pronounce the name of. They probably still think he's Quail. I'd be surprised if he got drafted and they didn't announce it as Quail Conley or something like that. Just because that's how ESPN rocks and rolls. They get the wrong logos. I don't know who was it. Oh, Leah sent it in our Slack here. This is wonderful podcasting because I am going to go look for this because there was an NFL analyst. Shout out to Erica Day who did mistake. Oh my God. It was Ian Rappaport again. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Chat, did you guys know about this? Last week we discussed Ian Rappaport calling Tetairoa McMillan an Arizona State star wide receiver, and then later editing the post instead of just deleting it. So I don't know what that was all about, but he did it again. He cannot keep getting away with this. He tweeted the hashtag Giants in the 4th round take hashtag Arizona running back Cam Scadaboo, number 105. I don't know what to say to that one, to be honest with you. Yeah, as Luke did ping me in the Discord when that happened. That is crazy, especially considering the fact that Erica and I believe Luke as well was on board with this, said, hey, the only way to get back like your stolen valor for the Tetairoa McMillan tweet is to just do it to Cam Scadaboo, right? And I didn't think that was a possibility, especially from Rap Sheet, because he just messed it up yesterday, the day before, whatever it was. Wow. Michael says, why do these national media guys get U of A and ASU mixed up so often? Eric, come here. Get in here. We got Eric Ruby, a PHNX Sun Devils host, coming in here. We're talking Ian Rappaport. We're talking about him mixing up T-Mac. Did you see he mixed up Cam Scadaboo?
Yeah.
Why does this happen to our schools? Why are we the two that get mixed up so often?
I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea. I think it's the dumbest thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. I started a petition literally because this is the dumbest thing ever, and it happens with no other schools. Like, seriously,
Not Colorado
no,
State,
it doesn't.
not
It doesn't
Missouri
happen.
State.
And like, these are not small schools, you know.
Yeah.
And like, again, you know, ASU was in the college football playoffs. In case you guys didn't know this, like, T-Mac was drafted in the top 10.
Luke signed your petition.
Thank you, Luke. Like, these are not schools that are irrelevant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they are completely different colors, completely different logos, like wildly different fan bases.
Yeah.
It's just it makes no sense to me, and it actually makes me very angry.
Yeah,
like, it's disrespectful to both sides. Yeah.
Indeed.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not staying here for a long time.
Talk about why the schools get mixed up so often.
Yeah, I just don't get it.
I needed to know if there was a reason from your
dude
side.
Like, you know, like, I usually like don't care about this type of stuff. Do you know how much it has to irk me for me to actually go to move.org and make a petition? Like, genuinely, you know how stupid something has to be?
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, for popping in. I just wanted your
You're
opinion.
welcome.
Saw you walking by. Thought that I needed to get you in on this because
Hashtag hold journalists accountable.
What Eric said, hashtag hold journalists accountable. Yeah, but as we were talking about Ian Rappaport, apparently Adam Schefter just absolutely unhinged on social media with getting the schools wrong. Thank you to everybody in the chat that did sign Eric's petition so that we can never be mistaken for Sun Devils again. Because, you know, he's a nice guy, but I wouldn't want to be mistaken for Eric Ruby on the street. You know what I mean? So, with that, chat, we move on to this quick little last thing on the draft. Quick little tidbit here. The last time Arizona had 4 players selected in one draft, like I said earlier, was 2008. It was cornerback Antoine Cason to the first round with the Chargers. Shout out to Justin Spears. Linebacker Spencer Larson to the Broncos. Defensive back Willery Fontenot to the Falcons. Sorry, I don't know why that tripped me up. Defensive tackle Lionel Dotson to the Dolphins. What is with Arizona Wildcats going to Damon's team? I think it was a little bit of destiny, possibly, that Damon became a Dolphins fan. And moving on, chat, to a little bit of a less encouraging topic, I'll say. Carter Bryant has tossed his name into the NBA draft waters. Damn. We knew it was going to happen, chat. We knew this was the expected outcome. He would have been silly to not at least go through this process. Where is he? This guy. This guy would have been silly to not go through the draft process and see if he could make as much ground in the NBA lottery as possible. Because if he goes high in this draft, I'm sure Carter Bryant is out of here. I would not blame him for being out of here. He's hanging out in Tucson. People are trying to make a lot of it. He was there for a wedding. It looks like based on social media stuff. He also probably still lives in Tucson. The lease ain't up, folks. I don't know what y'all thinking about, but I posted on my Twitter, you know, half-heartedly, kind of joking, like, Carter Bryant chilling, playing video games. Is he coming back? And yeah, so like, I feel like there's just a lot of that right now. Like, what is Carter Bryant doing? Does it tell us that he's gone? Does it tell us that he's back? And really, the truth is, folks, only Carter Bryant can tell us if he's coming back. And only Carter Bryant can tell us explicitly if he's going into the NBA draft and staying in the NBA draft. So, like Michael said, saw this coming. Think if he can confirm a top 15 pick, he has to go. Can I be a semantics guy here? Can I nitpick a little bit? I almost feel like if he goes top 12, he has to go. I almost feel like if you're being told like 15 is where you're going to go, I think if you're Carter Bryant, and maybe this is not how he thinks, I'm projecting my own thoughts on the situation right now. I feel as though NBA drafted in July. I feel as though if he gets told he's going to go 15, he's going to think to himself, I can get into the top 10 if I come back. And that's drastically different, I think. Like top 10 versus top 15 versus even top 5, I think is drastically different. So I think if you go in that top 12, maybe you could schmooze your way into the top 10 and then you're a top 10 guy. But I think if you're being told 15 to 20 is your range or whatever, 15 is your range, I think he actually comes back. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But Carter Bryant did announce that he's going to be in that NBA draft pool. I think he's going to go through the process. I think ultimately he returns to Tucson. next season, unless, like I said, he gets told he's going to go in that top 10 range, in which case nobody would blame him for leaving Arizona to go to the NBA draft. But that is neither here nor there. A part of the survey that I tasked you all with answering was, would Carter Bryant return? And here is that result. Will Carter Bryant return for a sophomore season at Arizona? 20 of you responded, and 75% of those respondees said yes. Carter Bryant will return for a sophomore season at Arizona to play under Tommy Lloyd. And honestly, I feel like that's probably about accurate. Like, throughout the course of conducting these surveys, I realized that the sample size of people that watch this show, diehards, and just the general Arizona Wildcat fans that I do know, I feel like really gave a good sampling for how I feel the general temperature of the fan base is. And another one of those questions was this one. Do you think Arizona should get an outside replacement for Carter Bryant if he goes to the NBA draft, i.e. in the transfer portal, or should they try, typo in my survey, or should they try to find an internal solution, i.e. Aristode or Anthony Dell'Orso? And a lot of you said external solution for that poll question, foregoing the idea of Aristode being, one, ready for that type of step up, and two, is in terms of ADO, I feel like there's a lot of lack of confidence in him across the fan base in general, just based on his performance last season. And I'm not in that camp. I actually think ADO could genuinely improve next season if given, one, the chance with the role, and two, another offseason in Tommy Lloyd's system to develop and grow and get stronger defensively. Specifically, I think ADO could actually be a real player next season for Arizona, but that's neither here nor there. That is where y'all stand on whether or not Carter Bryant's going to return, and also what Arizona should do for his replacement. The Carter Bryant thing kind of puts Arizona in an interesting spot where you're looking at this, if you're Tommy Lloyd, thinking, if Carter Bryant does not return, I'm going to need to replace his production, replace his potential somewhere, somehow. Stepping into the mind of a Tommy Lloyd, do you feel as though you have that talent on the roster already in Dwayne Aristode? It really depends, in my opinion, on how much Tommy Lloyd believes in Dwayne Aristode. And Trevor, he is keeping his eligibility open to return. This is kind of a similar thing to what a lot of guys are doing nowadays, like Caleb Love, Jaden Bradley, who's also doing the same thing, where you're going to go through the process, and if you get great news, bye. But if you don't get great news, you're going to come back, work on what they told you to work on, and hopefully next year you can hear your name called where you want it to be called. So that, I think, is what's going to be going down for Carter Bryant. And kind of to touch on a little bit of what Luke said, June 15th is what I was seeing as the deadline for him to withdraw his name. And I don't think that Tommy Lloyd, maybe I'm wrong, can afford to wait that long to replace Carter Bryant if he does go. I feel like you gotta have some sort of inclination as to what he's feeling right now. Excuse me, and start acting accordingly, right? I don't know. It's a really tough spot. Like these NBA college tweener players, it puts the team in a tough spot when they're as important to the success of the roster as Carter Bryant could be. And when you talk about how important he could be to the success of the roster, I asked you again, if Carter Bryant returns, is Arizona a Final Four team? And you all said yes. Every single person that responded said yes. If Carter Bryant returns, Arizona does have a roster that could contend for a Final Four. But in the inverse, if Carter Bryant does not return, what does it look like? And if Carter Bryant does not return to Arizona for a second season, 50% of you said no. Carter Bryant, his absence would remove Arizona from Final Four contention. And I tend to agree, again, without having seen any of the freshmen yet on a basketball court at the Big 12 level. I tend to agree, but I wouldn't absolutely rule it out. I know that's a little bit of fence sitting. Happy early birthday, Luke, for June 15th. But yeah, it's a little bit of fence sitting, but I want to see it on court first before I either rule them out or not. But I think on paper, without Carter Bryant, I do think Arizona is missing that guy that like on the wing that can change the game offensively and defensively. I know Koa Pete is that guy, but Carter Bryant, being a sophomore, being as improved as he would be, I think just the overall skill set really, really, really would boost Arizona into that Final Four range. And while we're on the topic of the front court, might as well throw this question here at you. Will a front court of Awaka, Krivas, and Pete be good enough to make up for the loss of Henry Vasar to UNC? 100% of you said yes. I do agree with the 100% of you that said yes, because I think that, again, without having seen Krivas in so long at this point, mostly focusing on Awaka and Pete here, I think Pete gives you all the bit of versatility that Vasar had, maybe outside of the pure size of Vasar, who was a massive hulking human at his height. But yeah, I think that Vasar is a huge loss, but I don't think that the pieces currently in place can't replace him. That makes sense. Get it, got it, good. That is where I stand on that question. And let me make sure we don't have any more Carter Bryant questions in the bag. I don't think that we do. All right, sweet. Because again, I'm going to be conducting these surveys probably like once every other week or so, just to kind of get in the heads of Arizona Wildcat football, basketball, softball, baseball fans, Arizona Wildcat fans in general, just so we can be more informed covering this program for you guys. If I don't know what you guys are thinking, how can I properly create content that's going to hit right where you want it to hit? So that's what I'm trying to do with these surveys. And also it's just really important for me to not be tone deaf, to know like where you guys stand on these issues so that I can give my takes within the same context of your takes. So, and that's also why I love talking to you guys in the chat, like our guy Trevor, who says I'm 60-40 if he doesn't return unless one of our recruits makes a big jump. And I'm in the same spot with you, right? Because again, you haven't seen the recruits on court yet. It's just been on paper and at the high school level, which all the elite recruits look awesome at the high school level. So let's see it in the Big 12 before we get too crazy. I agree. 60-40 feels about right. Because the coaching jobs that Tommy Lloyd has been able to accomplish, I feel as though he could get a roster, even without Carter Bryant, pretty deep into the tournament. But again, like Trevor said, probably 60-40 on that one. Luke says, if Carter Bryant leaves, who can replace him in the portal? You know what? I'll make you guys a promise. Right now. Thank Luke for this. Tomorrow's show, I will go through portal replacements for Carter Bryant. We were supposed to do it with Saul last week, but I pivoted because we were running out of time for prepping on that, and I wanted to be as comprehensive with that as possible. So I promise tomorrow I will have a list of at least a couple guys that I think are in the portal right now that could replace Carter Bryant. Shout out to you, Luke, for that one. Everyone in the chat can thank him for that tomorrow. Because I would like to talk about that on tomorrow's show, because if you're Tommy Lloyd looking to replace Carter Bryant and you don't think Dwayne Aristote is ready and you don't think ADO is ready to step up, you're going to have to go in the portal. And so I think that is where you're going to have to start. And so we will start that process tomorrow, chat. You, I, all of us, all these family and friends in here will do this. Michael says, I think no matter what, they have a better regular season record, knock on wood, but do not foresee another sub 500 record to start the year. Great point, actually. Why have I not thought of this? Why is chat smarter than me? What's going on? But yeah, I haven't even thought about that in preparation for next season. Like the non-conference, there's no way it's as bad as it was this past year, right? Now I understand that. Let me see if it's out yet, but I understand that Arizona's non-conference schedule right now is still very tough. Like it's incredibly tough. I don't think it's going to get any easier. The way Tommy Lloyd likes to orient his schedules does seem, it's not out yet on the site at least, but I do know we have some really tough non-conference matchups, I believe, including UConn and UCLA. Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of home and homes being scheduled for Tommy Lloyd in the non-conference, though, coming up in the years here. And I feel as though when you look at Arizona's non-conference, yeah, Michael, you're right. Yeah, we were both right. UCLA, UConn, and I think Auburn, you're right. Damn. Or was that for a year after? I don't know. I would look it up right now, but I want to be locked in with you guys. So either way, it doesn't really matter who you're facing. The non-conference, we know Tommy Lloyd has stacked it. We know it's tough. And so I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year's non-conference when you look at the strength of the teams Arizona faced in comparison to the results that they got. It was a lot of, why are you losing to a West Virginia? We know West Virginia is very well coached. We know that they're, somewhat talented. They have DeVries, who's an incredible shooter, but that's not a game that Arizona should have lost. Same thing with Oklahoma. I feel as though, no, you the man, Luke. No, you the man. No, you the man. No, I feel as though like the Oklahoma game, for example, like as good as Fears was, that's not a game you should have lost there. So there is just the UCLA offensive rebound still gives me critters in my skin. Like, I agree. The non-conference next year will not look as bad as it did this year. But I also say all that to say I wouldn't necessarily bank having a much better record coming out of non-con, because I think I expect them to, but I'm not banking it, because you never know when you're playing teams like UCLA and UConn, who are so well coached, as much as I hate Mick Cronin, respectfully. And then, yeah, folks, here in the last 10 minutes of the show, just some quick news and notes. Women's basketball related. You now have, I believe, 9 roster players for Arizona women's basketball, as Becky Burke might be the busiest woman west of the Mississippi. I feel like she is absolutely killing it. She brings in Maria Jurado, a Spanish guard, as the lineage of Spanish guards at Arizona continues on the women's basketball side. This is a crazy little snippet, and this is just for Erica Day. This is a player who was committed to SMU, and then after the coaching change, where Adia Barnes lands at SMU and abandons Arizona, guess where our beloved Jurado ends up? Switches from SMU to Arizona like a real Wildcat should. Heard Adia Barnes coming down the hallway in her clicky-clacky heels and said, I got to get out of here. Let me go talk to Becky Burke, because Becky Burke's wearing some Nike trainers and we're going to work. Played in Segel 21, the same club that produced Helena Puello and just countless other talented women's basketball players as well. And then also, Erica teased this. If you were watching last week, Erica teased this. You would have knew. But Samaya Sugapong did indeed take a visit to Arizona, as Erica was speculating. And she won't be playing with Jada and Brea, but signs with Arizona irregardless. La Jolla County Day School graduate, Samaya Sugapong, 5'7" sophomore, averaged 14.8 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 3.7 assists with 2.5 steals this past season for UC San Diego. Unbelievable numbers. Very talented player Becky Burke has acquired here, and she just continues to stockpile talented women for Arizona. The second-year player, being Sugapong, was earned most outstanding player honors in the Big West tournament this past season, and became the 8th transfer, as I was saying, to Arizona, and the 9th player on the roster, because Monte Adu obviously doubling down on Arizona, doing the double do, if you will. Could not be any more impressed with the roster that Becky Burke is putting together. I mean, I should say, could not be any more realistically impressed. I think I'd be super impressed if, Lauren Swan was on this roster still, or, you know what I mean? Like, but again, within reason, within reality here, I think like Becky Burke has done a great job of reconstructing this roster and preparing it for competition in the Big 12 next season, right? I don't know how you could look at what she's done and feel otherwise. I would love to hear someone in the chat that is anti Becky Burke right now, because I have not actually seen anyone on the Twitter streets or anywhere being negative towards Becky Burke's actions. It feels like Becky Burke is killing it left, right, and center. I'm excited to see how it continues onto the court, because I've said it the whole time. I am Becky Burke's #1 fan right now, but we have yet to see a single play on the basketball court. So if it works out, it works out, but not going to get too far ahead of ourselves on the Becky Burke train. But that is your women's basketball update for the day. Arizona baseball, we do have some very sad news. Brendan Summerhill just came back, and he's injured. He left the series against Texas Tech, I believe, with a leg injury after trying to leg out a ground ball, I believe. Very unfortunate news as you lose the series. It's the first Big 12 road series loss for Arizona this season. They lose to Texas Tech, fall back in the standings slightly. Not a great time for Arizona baseball. Arizona softball They also, I believe, split this past weekend, I believe. But either way, Devyn Netz is still an absolute superstar. Complete game shutout and a home run this past weekend. Shout out to Michael, who says he'll be out in Tucson this weekend. Not sure the extent of the injury from my reading this morning as of just yet. You'll have to dig into that for us after the show. I'll probably tweet something out possibly. So check my Twitter for that. But yeah, I'm not sure the extent of the injury. I'm not sure he's had like scans or whatnot yet since it was a road series. I don't know. But it was severe enough for him not to return for the rest of the series. He injured it in the opener, which is very unfortunate because like I said, he missed, what was it? Like about a month or whatever, 13, 16 games this season already. And you get him back, and to lose him in the series opener against Texas Tech is a huge loss for the Arizona baseball team, who is obviously so much better with him in the lineup than out of the lineup. Still a good team without him, but not at their absolute best. And then, I actually have a little bit of gymnastics, little gym cats news for you guys. The gymnastics staff, led by John Court, who I have a lot of respect for. When I was in the journalism school, one of our sports reporting classes, shout out to Coach Connor, I'll say. But one of our assignments was to go cover the gymnastics team, and we did, and we were to write an article and cover it on socials and blah blah blah. And we got to talk to Coach Court after that. And one of the coolest things about that experience was learning how humble and how personable he was. He was so open to answering the questions from students, I think, because he knew the importance of getting that experience and talking to a guy like him. So I appreciate him for that, for always, being so willing to speak to students and help the next generation of young journalists covering his sport. But anyway, him and his staff were selected by College Gym News as the co-staff of the year. They share the award with my Missouri Tigers, MIZZOU. As you all know, I am an Arizona Wildcat. I bleed Arizona blood, but also, I'm from St. Louis. And so I always sympathize with Mizzou. So it was pretty cool that little crossover happened in my neck of the woods as the co-staffs of the year. Michael says, TCU is a huge series. Cats currently sit 5th in the Big 12. Yes, they do. They fell back in the standings a little bit, down to 5th. A sweep could bring the Cats up to 2nd. It could indeed. And you hope to get that, because you don't want this kind of a loss on the road to cost you later in the season. And we're getting later into the season. It's crazy how fast time is passing, chat. It is already April 28th, 1 p.m. And you know what that means? This show is just about over. But I wanted to thank each and every one of you guys here in the chat for being here with me today on a solo show on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I truly appreciate it. I had a blast talking Arizona athletics with each and every one of you here in the chat today. Shout out to Michael, Trevor, Luke, Erica, everybody that was in the chat today. I just wanted to give you guys a huge shout out. June, Tom, everybody in the chat today. Where is my go-to spot for food and drinks in Tucson? No free ads. Had to make sure Max wasn't sitting here over my shoulder. There's a there's a place called Myco at like 22nd and Park. It's like pretty cheap and it's really good, horchata and stuff. I think that's a good Mexican spot. You really can't go wrong with Mexican food in Tucson. Like I obviously you probably can, I guess you can go wrong anywhere with anything, but I feel like there's so many good Mexican food spots in Tucson, but that was my go-to because I lived right there at the cottages for so long. So I would walk across the street, grab a little burrito and horchata and call it a day. For drinks, I was a huge 4th Avenue fan. But if I'm not going 4th Avenue, like I'm not going to go clubbing. I think like dive bars in Tucson are so awesome. There are so many good ones. The Silver Room is pretty good. And yeah, I free popcorn there. They have pool, free popcorn, little plastic darts, a little jukebox thing. Can't go wrong if it's just you and the boys trying to get some drinks in you quick before you go to the baseball game. Not too bad, but you really can't go wrong in Tucson for Mexican food. It's a city of gastronomy, so it's not just Mexican food. It's all types of food. I worked for Tucson Foodie for a while, so I know all about how diverse the food culture in Tucson, Arizona is, and I feel like it does not get Yeah. Then go like Silver Room or something like that for like a dive bar kind of vibe. But yeah, no, like I said, Tucson, incredibly diverse food culture. It does not get the credit it deserves for the diversity of its food culture. And like I was saying, I just want to appreciate each and every one of you guys for spending time with me today. Time is your most valuable resource in this life that we have. And so I appreciate you all for spending your hours with me talking about the school that we love, the Arizona Wildcats. And I'll be back with you tomorrow afternoon. I'll have Justin Spears on the show. We'll talk a little bit of football. I'll kick Spears out of there. And then you and I are going to talk about transfer basketball players because that's what we love to do. All right. So until tomorrow at noon, I will see you all on the internet. I'll see you all on social media. You can follow me at Kevo Posts on the artist formerly known as Twitter. You can follow our beat at PHNX_Wildcats. And you can, go follow Damon at Damon Dog, DAWG, for when he returns. And you can say, hi, I followed you while you were in Hawaii partying on a beach. And until tomorrow, folks, bear down and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.